Broncos Television presents Training Camp 2019.
It's day 14 of Broncos training camp, the team's final practice open to the fans before packing up and heading to the Great Northwest to face the Seattle Seahawks in preseason game number 2. Hello, and thank you for joining us for Broncos training camp 2019, powered by Ford. I'm Phil Milani, alongside Matt Boyer and Steve Atwater. We saw our second fight of training camp. This time it was between Emmanuel Sanders and Courtland Sutton.
I mean, look, we're on day 14 of camp right now. Yesterday was day 13, Steve. These guys have put in more work out here than most NFL teams had. Most NFL teams aren't even at day 7 yet.
Yeah.
So I think that when you've got guys in meeting rooms for 6 hours, they're on the field for 3 hours, in confined spaces, tempers are going to flare. It's typical.
Yeah, the surprising thing is that they're both on the same side of the ball, even in the same room. Now, I had a situation like this happen when I was in college. I got into it with one of my fellow defensive backs, but later on that night we were hanging out together and we had squashed all beef and didn't have any further issues. And Coach Fangio stepped in, stopped practice for a moment, talked to the team, and kind of made everybody kiss and make up. And fortunately, I don't think there'll be any issues going forward from this. But, it happened, and it happens with most teams.
I thought Vic Fangio did a great job. Squashed it, moved on, and now there's not even anything really to talk about. Kareem Jackson, he's a veteran in this league, heading into his 10th season. He weighed in on the situation.
It happens, man. We're all competitors, It's going to get a little chippy out here. Sometimes you can be, with a guy on the same side as you. But at the end of the day, it's all about, talking the issue out and, moving on from it. You can learn from it and move on from it. I mean, like I said, we're all competitors out here. We're going to compete at a high level as much as we can each and every day. And sometimes it, like I said, get a little heated.
Speaking of Kareem Jackson, he had a great practice himself. 2 interceptions yesterday, and he's already showing what he's capable of in a Broncos uniform. Let's check in with Alexis Perry now down on the field level. Alexis, it looks like we'll get our first look at Joe Flacco.
That's right, Phil. Yesterday, Joe Flacco took the time to talk to Emmanuel Sanders and Courtland Sutton individually after sparks flew between the two. And I think that's because he wants everybody on the same page prior to his Broncos debut coming up this Thursday. Head coach Vic Fangio said yesterday that Flacco will get the start in Seattle, and he will be surrounded by fellow starters. As for what that means in terms of reps, well, I'll let Coach Fangio tell you who will get him.
And there's different standards of starters. There's starters that are well established and need a certain amount of reps, and then there's others that need more. But our guys will play as many reps in the preseason as they would have if we only had 4. They're not going to get more. They're not going to get less.
One starter that might not see a single rep this Thursday is linebacker Josie Jewell, who took himself out of team drills yesterday, dealing with a strained oblique. With Todd Davis already out with a calf injury and Joe Jones out a few weeks, there are plenty of reps for those other inside linebackers to go around. Right, guys?
Yeah, that is right, Alexis, but the position group thinning a little bit might start to be a concern if it keeps happening. Guys, yesterday the Broncos practiced with crowd noise for the first time as they get set to head to Seattle. We know, Steve, that noise in Seattle is no joke.
Yeah, man, they have some serious decibels up there, boy. And, it's good for the team, too, just to get used to that for the regular season. It's good for the coaches to be able to communicate with the players, coaches to coaches, and also the players will have to come up with different hand signals because many times you won't be able to hear. You're like, I can't hear you, man, and you got to, tap your head or make some type of funny gesture with your hands so the guys can be on the same page.
Yeah, attention to detail goes up both for the defense and the offense. The offense when they're going on the road, the defense when they play at home.
Yeah, one of the things that I think especially the offensive rookies are looking forward to most is playing in CenturyLink Field. Steve mentioned it, the seismic activity that is can possibly go on. Now, in the preseason game 1, probably not going to hear that type of decibel level, but I had a chance to catch up with Noah Fant yesterday, and he talked about taking the lessons he learned in the Hall of Fame game and applying them to his first big road test.
It was my first game. Definitely, there was room to improve on. They definitely did some good things. So just looking forward to, keep working.
How comfortable did you feel out there with the guys? I know you guys have been practicing, but to put it together in a game environment, what was the difference?
Yeah, it felt a little bit different in the game. Obviously it's not the same as being out here at our practice field. So it's a little bit different, but just something that you get used to and something that you keep doing over time. So looking forward to that.
one of the things I was most impressed with, guys, with Fant's performance on Thursday, had a drop, had a couple of miscues, but, short-term memory, really got back into it and really kind of composed himself, finished his reps off strong. I liked what he's building so far here in camp.
Yeah, and we saw another rookie make the play of the game, Juwan Winfrey with the touchdown in the end zone, shaping up to be another great draft class. Time for us to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Rod Mackey from 9 News. Plus, we'll go inside practice with Cortland Sutton, mic'd up, coming up next.
Got some water, please. Appreciate it. Mouse, some Gatorade, please. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Yeah, we had Cortland Sutton mic'd up, typically a very respectful guy. Like to say thank you for water, towels out there, but he did get a little bit heated with Emmanuel Sanders. We're back here on Broncos Training Camp 2019. Happy to be joined by 9 News Sports Director Rod Mackey. Rod, thanks for coming on.
Great to be on again, guys. Thanks for having me.
Rod, you've had a long-standing relationship with Emmanuel Sanders. You've done the Broncos. You've hosted the Emmanuel Sanders Show, as you affectionately like to call it, the Broncos Huddle. But when you see two guys in the same position group fighting, and when it's a guy like Ian Cortland, what kind of goes through your mind?
Well, I just would first like to point out that Sanders and I have never gotten into it.
Okay, good.
I believe he's a little intimidated under the guns under this shirt is amazing. Here's the thing. I mean, everyone's going to talk about the fact that it's 14 days into training camp. Those two haven't faced anyone else. Sanders won't for quite a while still. So that could have been part of it. The other thing is you've got to keep in mind, you guys remember towards the end of last year when Sanders was injured, and Cortland was constantly talking about how he's got this increased role. He's the number one guy now. And that talk continued. And Fangio joked about it yesterday. These receivers are divas. I mean, there's no question about it. And I just wonder if perhaps that wore on Sanders a little bit. He was aware of that. Now, Cortland is saying it not when Sanders is on the field, so that wasn't a direct shot at Emmanuel, but you just wonder if there was a little bit of an underlying factor to what happened yesterday. And then, of course, it is heat of the moment, et cetera, everything on top of each other. But it was interesting to see those two being the guys that fight. It's usually Wolf and an offensive lineman.
Exactly.
It's receiver versus receiver. I don't know who I would have taken in that brawl.
I think Sutton's got the reach.
Big reach.
Yeah. Sanders is feisty.
That's true.
That's
true.
Quick. I don't know. And as you know, Emmanuel gets blown up all the time on the field and still gets up, salutes the crowd, and gets back on there. So
exactly. A couple of competitive guys out there. Joe Flacco is going to be making his Broncos debut on Thursday. What would be a successful outing for him?
I would love to see him do the typical one series, drive down, see Denver get in the end zone with a pass would be great, and then get him off the football field. I know last week was just the first preseason game, and I thought Kevin Hogan looked pretty good, but I think there is no doubt the success of this team, as happens so often in the NFL, is about the quarterback. Joe's been great out here. We've seen it. Now, temper those expectations a little bit because we were saying the same thing about Keenum last year, and that didn't work out so well. But I've been so impressed with what I've seen from Flacco so far. I would like to see him do the one long drive down the field and get off the football field and avoid injury. Successful. Bottom line, a successful debut for Joe Flacco is to come out of it healthy. Yeah. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, another guy that we didn't see in the Hall of Fame game, might not see in week one of the preseason, Von Miller. He's looked so good out here in practice. Does he need to play in this game because of how good he's looked out here?
No, he absolutely doesn't. And that's why, honestly, I don't want to see guys like Phillip Lindsay. I don't want to see guys like Emmanuel Sanders. I don't want to see Vaughn out there. I mean, it's silly to say that because it's on our air and I'm on the sidelines doing this stuff, so you want to see the best players out there. But I think we've seen over the years that they need a little bit of work, but not a whole lot. Vaughn doesn't need any. They get enough reps out here. Right. They truly do. So, he'll get out there. Phillip, keeping Lindsey off the field is going to be tougher than anything because, that guy's chomping at the bits. Let me get out there and play. Vaughn knows he's good to go. I think we'll see him at some point. I just don't know when.
Rod, you mentioned you're going to be on the sideline this Thursday. Tell us a little bit about the broadcast. It's going to be on Channel 20. What's it like working with Brian Greasy and Steve Levy?
That's honestly the best part. The best part of it, Matt and I were talking about it during break, is these production meetings we have before the games. So what happens is before the actual games, the morning of or the day before, we'll sit down with some of the players and the head coach and ask questions. I do this. I don't say a word because you got Brian Greasy out there. And if you're talking, face-offs and offsides and stuff, then Levy can chime in a little bit. Now, Steve knows this college football, let's be honest. But Greasy, listening to Greasy talk X's and O's with these guys is fascinating. And seeing those guys work together, and that tandem, they're great. They do college football all the time. They're going to do the Monday night game. They did the games with us all last season. It's really fun listening to those guys talk X's and O's with them. Plus, they also can bring that national perspective a little bit. Sometimes we get, you drink the Kool-Aid a little much here. So when you have guys come from the outside and do the games, it's great. Greasy's honest. If Greasy sees something he doesn't like out there, he'll call it out.
Exactly. We'll keep Rod around for a little bit here, but let's go back down to the field and check in with Alexis Perry. Alexis, we know that Von Miller and Bradley Chubb can rush the quarterback, but there's a rookie who's showing some flashes too.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sure we're all excited to see what the starters will do this Thursday in Seattle, but I know I am not alone in looking forward to what defensive end Draymond Jones will do in preseason game number 2. Jones was the Broncos' highest graded defensive player in the Hall of Fame game with 3 tackles and 3 quarterback hits, capturing the headlines and the attention of his teammates. Sam linebacker Bradley Chubb has become a huge fan of the 3rd-round pick, who apparently is having no problem adjusting to life as a pro. Take a listen.
I feel like he was first-round talent that fell to the 3rd round, so we got lucky. But he's been great out here in the preseason. You saw him doing this thing against the Falcons, and so I hope he just continues to get better each and every day. And I feel like as a unit, like I said, we're all a team. So if one guy's doing good, then we're all going to be doing good, and it's all going to make everybody look good.
Well, Chubb is no stranger to success as a rookie coming off a 12-sack season himself. I would keep an eye on both Bradley Chubb and Draymond Jones here on Thursday because I'm sure one of them will get their hands on Paxton Lynch. And let's be honest, we're all looking forward to that. Right, guys?
Exactly. That'll be interesting going up against Paxton Lynch there. Of course, he landed with Seattle. Rod, we know what Von Miller can do. What do you think would be a good year here for Bradley Chubb, a sophomore campaign?
It's funny. We're actually sitting down for our pregame special with Bradley, and I asked him, the first thing I asked him is, so what happens if you get more sacks than Vaughn? How much trash are you going to talk? And he very politically correctly said, hey, I'm not going to say anything. I will, as many sacks as we can get together, but he would love that. I'm expecting a huge season from Bradley Chubb. I really am. He was impressive last year in his rookie year, but I just think the more that extra year under the belt, we see that jump from rookie year to the second year, and the talent this guy has, and the fact that I think Vaughn's going to be great this year. I think Vaughn's going to be better under the Fangio defense this year. So guys are going to have to key on Vaughn, and that's going to open things up for Bradley. I'm expecting a huge season.
The 25 to 30 sack number, with the way that combined with the way that Fangio is able to disguise defenses, is totally in play. We've heard it from a lot of people, and we've seen it. We saw it in the Hall of Fame game. Definitely expect it here in the next couple.
Looking forward to seeing what they can do. Rod, thank you so much for joining us.
You bet, guys. Thanks.
Rod Mackey, Sports Director at Channel 9. Alexis, let's throw it down to you one more time. What are you looking for today, day 14 of camp?
My eyes are on Devontae Booker today. He had a great practice yesterday with Theo Riddick now in the mix, so I'm excited to watch him continue to step up his game with the new competition. But stick with us. Coming up after the break, we will have post-practice analysis with the fellas upstairs, and of course, we will hear from a couple of your favorite Broncos. Don't move a muscle.
Bradley Chubb normally rushing the quarterback there, playing QB with a fan out in the crowd. Von Miller signing some autographs, and of course Will Parks chatting with some family after post-practice here as day 14 is in the books at UC Health Training Center. We are back here on Broncos Training Camp 2019, powered by Ford. I'm Phil Milani alongside Matt Boyer and Andrew Mason. They weren't in pads today. They're putting in some work getting ready specifically for the Seahawks, but what did you see?
I saw a very three-quarter speed practice. Mace mentioned it before we came on here. I thought that the young guys, though, especially looked good. Noah Fant looked good. Josh Watson had a pick in the end zone. So I do think that while it was a kind of lower-tempered practice, Mace, I think that the young guys especially played extremely well.
Well, you want to see them around the ball and in the right spot. Alexander Johnson had a pick, and he was in the right place at the right time. The ball bounced off Deshaun Hamilton and into Johnson's grasp, but you've got to be in position to take advantage of those offensive miscues when they happen. That's where a lot of takeaways are going to come. So good to see him be opportunistic and get that pick. Josh Watson, Elijah Holder also with an interception. So defenders flying around the ball, good day.
The talk of the day surrounded Emmanuel Sanders and Cortland Sutton. We talked about it on this show earlier on, and after practice today, we heard from the both of them together.
Obviously we family. Went to the same school, grew up in the same area. It was a miscommunication. That's just what it is. But at the end of the day, we back on the same page, trying to be the best receivers in the world. Sometimes through failure, there's growth, and I feel like me and him has grown through this in terms of bringing that dog out of us even more and just ready to win and ready to tear it up.
100%. I think what Emmanuel said is right on point. We brothers at the end of the day. That's all that matters. Like you said, we went to the same school. It's a dude I look up to. Dude I've been watching for a long time, chasing his records and getting here and following in his footsteps. So, all that stuff is swept on the road. We're moving on to bigger and better things. We're ready to win and take this what we have here and keep growing it.
Good to see those two make amends and do that together after practice. What'd you think?
Well, we kind of knew that was going to come. I think everybody kind of had an idea it was going to be addressed today. And like they mentioned, both of those guys from SMU, both of those guys are from the same part or same area in Texas. So I do think, Mace, that it was an expected kind of joint meeting of the minds there after practice.
Oh, they refer to their shared background, like you said, being from SMU, both being from Texas, called themselves brothers. And you know what? Sometimes brothers fight. That's just the nature of sibling rivalry.
Brothers also
sometimes. Hug. Yeah, brothers don't shake hands. Brothers gotta hug.
Exactly. Good to see those two together. Our reporters Steve Atwater and Alexis Perry caught up with two other players after practice, two of the bigger stars from preseason game number 1.
Thanks, guys. Kafani had a great game against the Atlanta Falcons in the Hall of Fame game. What are you looking to do here in this game against the Seattle Seahawks coming up?
Just keeping the train rolling. I mean, obviously, I start off to a good start. My main goal is just keep it going. That's priority. It's all about consistency and going out there and repeating the same excellent performance that you did previously. So.
Now, what do you think about this offensive system, this Scangarello system?
Yeah, I like the offense. It's good for mismatches. I mean, it gets us out there in open space against linebackers and creates mismatches and get us in open space. So for somebody like me with speed, I mean, it works out perfect.
Yeah. Now, the team recently signed Theo Riddick. That the depth in that running back room is extremely deep. What do you think about the competition in that room?
Well, hey, competition brings out the best of people. So we got a good group of running backs. You just got to keep working and keep doing your job. And you can only focus on yourself. You can't control all that type of stuff. So just worry about yourself.
All right. Thanks, Kafani. Continue success.
Thank you.
All right, over to you, Alexis.
Draymond, yesterday Bradley Chubb said that a lot of rookies come into the league and they seem a little lost, but you seem to get it right away. Is it safe to say that you're adjusting well to your new job here in the pros?
Yeah, I think I did a great job of just transitioning from college to the pros. I don't do it alone. I mean, my vets definitely helped me out, but I think it's been a good process for me.
Yeah, you had an outstanding showing in the Hall of Fame game last Thursday. How do you build off of that into this Thursday's game in Seattle?
Just continue to stay ahead. I don't want to look back and watch film what I did. That's over with now. It's in the books. I got to look forward to Seattle. They're a pretty good team, and I don't want to waste my time focusing on the past.
What adjustments can you make to have an even better showing?
Just being tweaking other things that I didn't tweak up during the game, just like fixing little things here and there, just small things.
Okay, thanks so much, Draymond. Appreciate it.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you very much, guys down there on the field catching up with players. How can those two match what they did week 1?
It's going to be tough, but I think that Calfani is going to get plenty of reps in the second half. Same thing with Draymond. And we saw, Mace, that defense, that especially the young guys, when you put those guys in a Vic Fangio defense, Malik Reed was another guy, Draymond Jones, when they rush the passer, they can be very, very effective when you get a defense like Vic's that can disguise some of the rushes.
Don't forget DeMarcus Walker as well. Of course, he had a big game last week. He'll certainly be in the mix. What I want to see from Draymond Jones, I want to see if he'll work against, say, second-teamers for Seattle. He did what he did, those back-to-back plays in the fourth quarter. A lot of those guys out there on the O-line for Atlanta, quite frankly, aren't going to be around when the regular season comes. So I'd like to see him get some reps against guys on the Seahawks second team that are going to be there, the kind of players he's going to have to face in the regular season.
Well, the Broncos are packing up and heading to Seattle. Let's hear from a couple of hometown kids who are heading to the Northwest.
I just want to be more physical every game. I'm the type of guy that if I'm not putting a guy on the ground, I see that as an opportunity to be more physical. So had a good game last week, but I have a lot of room to improve and a lot of areas I got to do better in here Thursday.
Crowd noise a factor here for you this game?
It's going to be a factor, I would assume. We know it's a preseason game. We know we're on the road. We're going against the Seattle Seahawks, who have a great fan base. So we know that there's going to be crowd noise, but we practiced plenty this week to make sure that we can handle that.
I'm always watching the vets. I'm always learning from them. Everything they do, I'm always looking at all the way from their footwork to the way they do move their hands and everything like that. And, and they're awesome. All the vets are awesome. They're always, in my ear after reps is like, oh, you should have done this or that, always giving me advice and all those things like that. So, I have, this veterans ahead of me are awesome, all of them.
All right, so 2 hometown kids there. Quickly, let's wrap this thing up. What do you want to see versus Seattle?
I want to see Joe Flacco on that offensive line. They've had some troubles with the snap. I want to see both of those groups, the quarterbacks and the offensive line, play better together this week.
Consistency on the O-line, on the defensive side, pressure, and not getting caught out of position against some mobile quarterbacks.
All right, that is going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching Broncos Training Camp 2019, powered by Ford.